Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Thank you to everyone who has been so supportive of this. Truly, your texts and your words just mean a lot to me. So thank you. As always, subscribe if you want to always be in on what's going on. I don't actually know what happens when you subscribe to a YouTube channel, I'll be honest, so maybe you shouldn't. I don't know. But today I'm going to be talking about one of my favorite stories in scripture, and favorite is maybe not the word, but most challenging maybe is to me and to my faith. If you're wondering, my speakers on my phone are messed up, so I need to get a microphone to be doing this, but everything on Amazon is back ordered and you can't really get anything right now, so headphones it is. So sorry if that's annoying or distracting or whatever, but we're just rolling with it. So I'm just going to go ahead and read the story and then talk about it. So this is Mark 4, starting in verse 35. On that day when evening had come, he said to them, "Let's go across to the other side." And leaving the crowd, they took him with them in the boat, just as he was, and other boats were there with him. And a great windstorm arose, and the waves were breaking into the boat, so that the boat was already filling. But he was in the stern, asleep on the cushion. And they woke him and said to him, "Teacher, do you not care that we're dying?" And he awoke and rebuked the wind and said to the sea, "Peace, be still." And the wind ceased, and there was a great calm. He said to them, "Why are you so afraid? Have you still no faith?" And they were filled with great fear, and said to one another, "Who then is this that even the wind and the sea obey him?" It's a challenging story for me, and let me tell you why. First off, you enter into this story, and they're on a boat, and they're with Jesus. And at this point, Jesus has performed miracles, and he's told parables, and he's kind of set himself up already as this great teacher who can perform miracles, who's clearly been sent by God. And they get on this boat, and Jesus said, "Let's go to the other side." It was Jesus' idea. He's like, "Let's just scoot on over there." And that's the first thing that I love, is that it was Jesus' idea. So Jesus tells them to go, and he knows the storm's coming. And so sometimes Jesus tells us to go places knowing that the storm is coming. He tells us to go across to the other side knowing that the waves are going to pick up and the seas are going to rage, and it's going to be hard, and it's going to be scary, and it's going to be tough. But he goes with them. He doesn't tell them to go without him. He tells them to go with him, and he's there, and he's in the midst of it with them, and he's just with them in the storm. And that's very true of us too. Jesus is going to tell us to go places. He's going to call us to go places, and sometimes those places are scary, and sometimes the storms are going to rage against us. And the good news is that Jesus doesn't tell us to go without him. He tells us to go, and he's going to go with us. So that's number one that I love about this story. And so then you keep going, and the winds pick up, and the storm arose, and the waves were breaking into the boat, so that the boat was already filling with water. But he was in the stern, asleep, just chilling, as he does. I am definitely one of those people that can sleep through anything. So I understand Jesus in this sense. I'd be the same way. So Jesus is just asleep. And the disciples run down. They wake him up, and they're like, "Hey, don't you care that we're dying?" I think that's what we all kind of do when things get hard, is we go to Jesus and we're like, "Don't you care?" And Jesus is like, "I sent you here. I'm aware. Don't you trust me? Don't you have faith that I'm going to pull you through this? Don't you know that I'm not going to let you fail, and I'm not going to let you drown, and I'm not going to let you be overcome by this? Don't you know that I'm with you?" And Jesus wakes up, and before he teaches them a lesson or tries to call them out for not trusting him, he first calms the storm. And his first instinct is not to rebuke, it's not to teach, it's to bring peace. And I think that that is just like a beautiful picture of like who Jesus is like they were in the wrong and they should have trusted him more, and they should have had faith in who Jesus was and what he could do. But Jesus' first instinct is still to bring peace instead of the hard hand of a teacher. I think that's just a really beautiful example of Jesus' character. So he says, "Peace, be still," and the ocean or sea goes completely calm. And I just like can't imagine what that was like to be in the middle of like a great storm. Like I imagine like, the power of a hurricane, and for one person to be able to say, "Peace, be still," and all of a sudden everything's quiet. It's just wild when you really stop and like think about what that was like. So he calms the storm, everything is good, and then he looks at his disciples and says, "Why are you so afraid? Do you seriously still have no faith?" And that's where I get caught up. And that's where this story gets really challenging for me. Because as followers of Jesus, this is why stories are so important, because our stories are examples of how Jesus has delivered us, how he's saved us, how he's brought peace to our lives. That's what stories do, and that's why we have the Bible, is to have these examples, and that's why community is so important, is so that we're constantly hearing stories about the faithfulness of Jesus, so that those are reminders for when we're in the middle of storms to say, okay, yes, this is scary, yes, this is a lot right now, but Jesus calms storms, and he's going to calm this one too. And I don't know what that's going to look like, but I know he's going to do it because Jesus calms storms. And here's all the examples that I have of this. And we have these stories so that when the storms come, we're not afraid. And even if we are afraid, we still have faith and we still have hope. And Jesus looks at his disciples after this, after they've literally freaked out on this boat, woken Jesus up, acted probably crazy, as I would too. And he looks at them and he says, "Why are you so afraid? Have you still no faith?" And fear is one of my driving emotions. I don't love to talk about the Enneagram in regards to my life. However, I'm an Enneagram 6, which puts me right in the middle of the fear triad. And that's pretty accurate. I'm afraid of a lot of things, and fear shows itself in very different ways on any given day, but I am a very fearful person. And to hear Jesus speak these words to the disciples where he says, "Why are you still so afraid? Have you not seen all these things? Do you not remember the time that you were in high school and I protected you? Do you not remember the time that you were in college and you were sick and I healed you? Do you not remember the time that you were praying desperately for community and I brought you friends? Do you not remember these times? Why are you still so afraid?" And that just like hits me so hard, because why am I still afraid? Why don't I trust fully in Jesus? Why is that so hard for me? And truly the next part is even better, because he looks at them and he says, "Why are you so afraid?" And the next verse is, "And they were filled with great fear." So he's literally calling them out on their fear, and they're running towards fear, and they're running towards that. And I think something that I have learned about myself is that my fear is my comfort zone, which is weird because I don't like being afraid. But being afraid is like a security blanket. It like keeps me safe. Like I'm afraid, and because I'm afraid, I'm not going to do things, and that keeps me safe. Or I'm afraid and I'm running towards my fear because it's easier to run towards my fear than to step out in faith. And that's not how we're called to live. We're called to be people who step out in faith and who aren't afraid. And even if we are afraid, we still have faith that Jesus is going to walk with us and be with us. And he's going with us on the boat. He's not sending us across to the other side without being with us. But he says, why are you so afraid? And their instant reaction is to be filled with great fear. It's because fear is comforting, because fear keeps us safe. And my challenge to us is to be people who look our fear in the face and we say, one, we admit it, we say we're scared. But we're scared, but we know Jesus is bigger. And we know he's going with us. He's already gone before us. He's going behind us. And we don't have to be afraid, and we're stepping out in faith. No matter what. Because Jesus is the boat with us. And even if he's asleep, he's still got us. He's going to calm the storm. He's going to be with us. And that's why this is just one of my favorite verses and favorite things to remind myself is that Jesus stands up and he says, peace be still. And he has the power to do that. And he had the power then, and he still has that power now. And he's going to do it. No matter what your storm looks like, he's going to stand up in his own way, in his own time, and it's going to look different, and there's no way to know how it's going to look, but he's going to stand up, and he's going to bring peace, and he's going to bring comfort. And that is what we cling to, and that's what we hold on to, and that's what we hope for. So yeah, that's Mark 4. Jesus calming the storm. It's a good story. Go read it today. Go reflect on it. Go just be in the Word, and be with Jesus, and ask him what you're afraid of. Like, ask him to reveal those things to you. So yeah, as always, if you need someone to be praying for you, please reach out to me. You can DM me on Instagram or whatever. But I hope this blesses you today. I'm praying for you. And yeah, have a great Thursday.